The brain is an amazing organ. We have the ability to communicate, analyze, and creatively imagine. These skills can be found in everyone, yet some persons are highly dissimilar. They have an alternate perspective on the world. What's happening in their heads is a mystery to us. To give just one example, think of Albert Einstein. He devoted himself to expanding human understanding of the laws of the universe, which include concepts like time, space, and matter. He is widely regarded as the conceptual innovator. When we consider the technologies that have shaped our modern world and made our lives easier, however, there is one name that jumps out and makes every other creator appear like a hack. Nikola Tesla is his name. Among all the scientists and innovators in history, Tesla stands out as one of the most important to me. He possessed an intellect that was among the most exceptional you would ever encounter. To the point that he could, at a young age, recall an entire book line by line, design a project or invention flawlessly from memory, and believe it was his job to bring these innovations to life. The younger generation may think of autos when they hear the name Tesla today. Regrettably, most people only know about Tesla from second-hand accounts, and what little they do know seems to be so rudimentary that it fails to do justice to this extraordinary intelligence. Hence, let's make a shift. Let's take a look at Nikola Tesla's life and the ways in which his contributions shaped the modern world. Let's back up and look at his early years. In 1856, Tesla was born in a little hamlet in the Austro-Hungarian Empire that is today Croatia. Thunder and lightning accompanied his arrival into the world. The superstitious midwife who helped with the delivery saw this and predicted a grim future for the baby. But his mom insisted, "No. My future offspring will be a shining star." A later time when it became clear that they were both correct, it was a tragic realization. He had an exceptional memory for mechanical information. To no one's surprise, Nikola graduated from high school far earlier than his contemporaries. But at the young age of 17, death came knocking on his door. A cholera epidemic at the time struck him hard. At one point, he was in imminent danger of dying. He was bedridden for an entire year. Though he was suffering from a life-threatening disease, he looked at it as a chance, telling his father, "If you let me study engineering, I can survive." Because his dad really pushed the military and religion on him. However, after seeing his son in such a precarious state and realizing that this may be his dying request, the father gives in. Tesla's father follows his word and lets him enroll in university to study engineering after he miraculously recovers swiftly. And that's how our understanding of history was rewritten. Tesla, however, avoided serving his mandatory 3 years in the military by hiding out in the mountains after his recovery. He subsequently enrolled at Austria's Graz University of Technology. At the age of 21, Tesla was the top student at his university, had a perfect GPA, and could communicate in 8 languages. One of his instructors reportedly warned his father that, if he works this much, he may lose his life, because he spent so much time learning. It wasn't until the second year that problems really began to emerge. All of Tesla's allowances and scholarships vanished into thin air before the end of his 3rd year as a result of his gambling habit. He even managed to send money home to his family at one time when he was winning more than he was losing. Because of his drug abuse, his college career was cut short. In his senior year, he abruptly severed ties with everyone he knew, including his parents, so he wouldn't have to inform them he was dropping out. Everyone who knew him at the time was terrified he had passed away due to how suddenly it happened. At a later time, he traveled to Maribor, Slovenia. Tesla finds employment at a local engineering firm. Tesla's dad comes to town and tries to talk him into moving back, but he's not having any of it. He travels to Prague with the support of his relatives in order to complete his education at Charles Ferdinand University, but he is unable to do so due to his inability to speak Czech. However, he has not let this deter him from continuing his education, as he spends every spare moment in Prague's Clementinum Library. In Budapest, Tesla gets a job at a phone firm and promptly sets about enhancing several areas of the company's phone services. He then uses his connections to land a job with Edison Continental Company in France. Even though he hasn't met Thomas Edison just yet, this is where their relationship officially begins. Tesla joins the Edison Continental Company as a technician in the Paris department, where he is instrumental in the company's growth throughout Europe. His primary responsibility was to address issues that had arisen due to the company's use of direct current. Tesla's speed in finding and implementing solutions garnered him widespread praise. One of his primary responsibilities was to accompany German Emperor Wilhelm I to the opening of a new train station in Strasbourg. Due to a short circuit, there was a massive explosion at the station, and the Emperor was nearly killed in the resulting fire. Tesla was dispatched to find a long-term solution, and although he did, he realized that direct current was no longer viable and advocated instead for the widespread adoption of alternating current. When Thomas Edison's direct current motors and generators kept breaking down, he convinced Edison in 1885 that he could fix them by redesigning them. Edison liked the concept and offered Tesla $1 million in today's currency if he could fix the issue. Tesla did not waste any time getting to work on the motors and generators. As soon as he hears about the explosions and short circuits, Tesla gets to work finding a remedy. He achieves this by streamlining formerly complex designs and improving their dependability. Indeed, this design proved so effective that it is currently in use in a wide variety of modern products, including Tesla automobiles and water pumps. Tesla completes the work, and then requests payment from Edison. When asked for his response, Edison laughed and said, "Mr. Tesla, you still don't understand American humor." This was Edison's first attempt at tricking Tesla, and it backfired spectacularly. The dawn of the electrical age was upon the planet. Like the dot-com bubble of the 1990s, an investment frenzy had begun as people realized the enormous potential of the electrical revolution to radically alter society. Overnight, multi-billion-dollar corporations began popping up, and the American economy began a remarkable expansion that has continued to this day. Because of electricity's role in industry, household technology, and worker efficiency in general, that's why. The revolution and shift we are talking about is impossible to fathom now when life is so easy. Our forefathers, and their forefathers, provided us with electricity from the start, and now we can't remember a time before it. Alternately, if you're a bit older, try to think back to a time before the internet. To the generation of today's children, the concept of a world without the internet is incomprehensible. They can't fathom how it felt because of their lack of experience. Tesla was inspired to back the electrical revolution with the more stable alternating current after being duped by Edison, AC. It was clear, however, that this time frame would not be without its challenges. He was earning $2 per day digging roads and building houses at the time. When asked to reflect on his life, he said this was among the most challenging periods. But in the end, he did manage to get the notice of George Westinghouse with his endeavors. One of the players in the present wars, the biggest power struggle in history and the originator of the Westinghouse Company. Our hero, Nikola Tesla, benefits from the ongoing conflict between Edison and Westinghouse for power, money, and patents. His inventions were his life, and he dedicated himself to improving them at every opportunity. Importantly, it was during this time that Edison also founded General Electric. The patent disputes between Westinghouse and General Electric can be seen in the context of the competition between Tesla and Edison. In response to Edison's faulty direct current, DC, technology, Tesla, with Westinghouse's backing, set out to create alternatives. One of DC's major flaws was that it could not transport power over long distances and necessitated the construction of a power plant every few kilometers. As an additional need, very thick wires were called for. Thus, in light of the present day, it was not adequate for providing energy to every home around the globe. However, Tesla's alternating current, AC, technology allowed for thinner cables, higher voltage, and problem-free transmission of power over greater distances. That's when things started to get heated. If the winner was chosen, it would shine a light on the entire planet. Edison and the American legal army behind him filed numerous patent cases in 1893 challenging Westinghouse's and Tesla's discoveries and concepts. Both sides were at their strongest during this time of battle. The reason Edison didn't want the general public to know that Tesla's technology was superior was because he knew that he himself would be reviled for admitting it. For this reason, he set out to demonstrate that the high voltage of alternating current was disastrous. Yet how? Let's discuss a fascinating urban legend right now. Locals reported unexplainable occurrences shortly after Edison set up shop in their neighborhood. Cats and dogs kept as pets are going extinct. The aliens couldn't have done this, of course. Some kids brought Edison some animals, and Edison gave them 25 cents for each one. And Edison openly slaughtered these creatures by electrifying them. Not only that, but he did it with the help of Tesla's AC technology. He hoped to persuade his audience that it was extremely risky to utilize this current at home. The electric chair, which also made use of Tesla's alternating current, was made possible in part by Edison's financial backing. As a means of highlighting the fact that the chosen means of execution was a demonic one. These two instances demonstrate his drive and ambition quite clearly. However, Tesla was hardly a passive observer. In 1893, he used his own body to generate light from alternating electricity at a fair. It was the final straw for Edison. The game is over at this point. This development facilitated the global dissemination of Westinghouse's alternating current generators and systems, which offered numerous technical advantages. And at this point in his life, Nikola Tesla was at its peak. A global celebrity, if you will. His name was common knowledge, and it was even making its way into the conversations of the era's most influential figures. Everyone adored him because he made their lives simpler. Their feelings for him were intense. Even though he had only $4 in his pocket when he arrived, he had become a celebrity in the country. His wit and determination had gotten him to the top. Tesla alternating current motors, generators, transformers, and power transmission technologies are just a few of the 25 inventions that resulted from this procedure and were awarded patents, making it the most prolific patenting effort since the invention of the telephone. Earlier, I emphasized how these innovations are the foundation for all modern electrical technology. Even at this point, Tesla's accomplishments would be enough to cement his place in history, yet he continued to push forward. All of the innovations of the 20th century may be traced back to the ideas he came up with in the following years. Take the widespread belief that Guglielmo Marconi invented radio. But Marconi built on Tesla's research. Tesla conducted research in 1893 that proved data could be transmitted by radio waves. He showed it off for the American authorities. However, he was unable to secure a patent for his invention. During one of his investigations in 1893, Tesla postulated that data may be transferred using radio waves. Plus, he showed out his remote control boat to an audience in 1898. In retrospect, this seems like a silly thing to say, but at the time, the onlookers truly believed Tesla was performing magic or that a small monkey was hiding inside the boat. But once Marconi carried the first radio transmission across the Atlantic Ocean, he became known as the father of radio. Tesla criticized Marconi in a lecture, stating, "Marconi is a nice guy, but he is utilizing 17 of my patents without my permission. Allow him to keep working." Now, let's discuss another one of his significant discoveries, X-rays. Really, that's just so odd. Even though Wilhelm Röntgen is the name that first comes to mind, this object also has an interesting backstory. In reality, Nikola Tesla was the pioneer of X-ray photography. Generally speaking, things are different around here. Röntgen and Tesla were independently researching essentially the same phenomena. Tesla took the first X-ray photograph using multiple tubes in his research before publicly revealing his finding, which he called X-radiation. But there were a lot of anomalies in the picture he took, and he hadn't drawn any conclusions as of yet. Several weeks later, Röntgen shared his findings with the world. If we must bring up Thomas Edison, we should know that he tested the rays on one of his employees, Clarence Dully, maybe in an effort to claim the patent for himself. The radiation exposure that took Dully's life began with the amputation of his arms, and it was the cancer that ultimately killed him. Edison's vision was threatened, and he had to do something about it. One of the saddest moments in Tesla's life also needs to be discussed here. The laboratory where Nikola Tesla worked was destroyed by fire in March 1895. Everything that Tesla ever researched, designed, modeled, and wrote down. Literally everything was on fire. In addition, he wasted $50,000 worth of materials. When questioned by a New York Times reporter how he was doing, he said, "The way I feel right now is really awful. I just don't know what to say." And now, a discussion of hydroelectric power plants, another technological innovation. Tesla was also the first to develop a hydroelectric power plant. He claimed that a city of significant size could have its energy demands met by constructing a power station at Niagara Falls. Naturally, not a single person believed him. As a young boy, he had already planned and mapped out the details of this. Even as a child, he contemplated the possibility of harnessing the kinetic energy of water in motion. New York City finally gained access to energy via alternating current after a power plant was constructed near Niagara Falls and was able to draw power from the falls. The earthquake machine was yet another fascinating creation. The backstory is just as interesting. In his lab, Tesla was constructing a vibration machine. When he synchronized the machine's vibration with the structures, he felt both the machine and the building tremble. He wound up the machine's power until there were cracking noises and the heavy equipment in the lab began to tremble. After the plaster began to fall, he finally broke the machine to halt it. People inside the building were screaming as though an earthquake had struck. A short time later, the cops arrived at the structure as well. Curiously, the device that may cause the skyscraper to collapse was hardly larger than a tablet computer. It warns that if a company of soldiers walks across a bridge in perfect unison with the natural vibration, the bridge could collapse because the two are in rhythm. Let's go to his crowning achievement now. Something that, if accomplished, would change the world in profound ways and continues to push the boundaries of human thought. This is the Tesla Tower, or the Wardenclyffe Tower as it is sometimes called. Such a tale is contained within it. The primary goal of the Tesla Tower was to provide global access to electricity via wireless transmission. All of the world's residents could receive their electricity via ionospheric-based wireless transmission. Wireless electricity. Even now, researchers are having difficulty bringing this idea to fruition. Here's where the story takes a terrible turn. Tesla's efforts to realize this vision were sincere. Even the initial trials met with success. The issue, though, was that there were a few of them. Although Tesla's initial announcement of the initiative made mention of data transfers to faraway regions, J.P. Morgan was the primary financier. Though, bearing Marconi in mind. After the transatlantic message was sent successfully, J.P. Morgan declared the tower unnecessary and cut off all funding. However, investors were understandably wary of Tesla's endeavors since they were ahead of their time and, more crucially, because of the low or non-existent returns on their investments. The tower's construction halted after numerous milestones were reached due to the expiration of numerous patents, notably those for Tesla's AC motors, and the loss of money from copyright fees. Tesla tried to finish the tower but was unable. The financial burden and stress caused by the destruction of Tesla's laboratory and all of his equipment, notes, and documentation contributed considerably to the project's unfinished state. It was mostly due to Tesla's mental breakdown. If it had been finished, it would have provided the groundwork for Tesla's lesser-known projects like the death ray and particle beam. Unfortunate occurrences, impossibilities, and miscalculations led to Tesla's first failure, maybe exceeding the boundaries of his time, and a lot of money was wasted on an unfinished project. Tesla's character and mental state must also be mentioned with these setbacks, the burning of the laboratory, and the incomplete projects. As a person, he gave his all to helping others. His sole intent was to make people healthier and happier. He really didn't care about money. His interview comments were as follows: "Money is important to a lot of people, but it's meaningless to me. Every cent I made went into exploring uncharted territory and developing groundbreaking innovations." He was also establishing the groundwork for what would eventually become the wireless internet by working on wireless energy and information transport. One of his studies involved using a handheld device with a design that was remarkably similar to modern cell phones to collect data from this wireless communication network. Already in 1901, he had given this some attention. Tesla's mind was also not in the best shape. He was undoubtedly an insomniac and possessed a personality prone to compulsive behavior. His companions said he slept for no more than 2 hours at a time. The remainder of his time was devoted to finishing his initiatives and resolving issues. We also learned that he had a peculiar fixation on the number 3 and that he used precisely 18 napkins to wipe the table down before beginning his meal. For some reason, he couldn't stand it when others touched his hair, shook his hand, or looked at his jewelry. Tesla was no exception to the rule that great minds often hid unusual behavior. As a result, he had a hard time dealing with setbacks. After a string of missteps beginning with the Tesla Tower, he was on a course he couldn't back out of. At the same rate he reached the peak, he descended to the ground. This was extremely distressing, and it ultimately led to his becoming unable to tell truth from fiction and deteriorating into a clinical state of mental illness. He stated in an interview, "For many years, I have been breeding thousands of pigeons. One, though, stood out. We shared a fascinating bond. One might go so far as to call it love. After a while, he'd emerge from the throngs of pigeons and find me. While I was up late solving issues, he came up to me and pretended to have something crucial to say. He informed me that his death was imminent. This made complete sense to me. When I stared into his eyes, a bright light radiated from them. This gives us insight into his mental condition." Tesla signed almost 700 different innovations during his lifetime, 100 of which were patented. But he was unable to pay the rent on the New Yorker hotel room 3327 where he lived out his days, and so he spent his final days in abject poverty. The explanation is elementary. During its conflict with Edison, Westinghouse Company offered Tesla compensation in exchange for his services once the dust settled. Tesla agreed, and at that point he tore up every agreement he had ever signed. Taking into account current market conditions, the worth of that deal is somewhere around $300 billion today. Westinghouse took a chance on him when everyone else had abandoned him. For Nikola Tesla, maybe that was good enough. His high regard for monetary value can also be deduced from this. Perhaps he realized that the world had changed for the better because of him. We should also give Thomas Edison some credit for inventing the light bulb. Although he did not invent the light bulb per se, he was pivotal in its development by ensuring that all efforts were focused in the right places. Also, as a side point, it's important not to overlook the scientists that came before Tesla. Although Michael Faraday and Hippolyte Pixii made significant theoretical and practical contributions to alternating current before Tesla, it was Tesla who stabilized the technology. Furthermore, all the inventions we see today are the result of tens of thousands of people's efforts, even if only one is given credit. There are thousands of people behind the telegraph, steam engine, phonograph, camera, telephone, or any other major item, Mark Twain stated on the subject, but generally the last guy gets all the glory and we forget all these people. All they did was secure the final component in place. As much as 99% of the progress is attributed to inspiration and quoting. Considering this, it's clear that we need to require a sense of modesty. But we just can't. As a result, it is clear that Nikola Tesla was a major player in history. We discussed him in this video, but others have utilized his name to earn billions of dollars and gain widespread recognition. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Up Science if you like the video. Keep the love alive.